To understand the value of knowledge and especially intellectual capital, which is a useful knowledge that you can share or sell to others, we should take the following thought experiment and play it out. So let's say you have a value investor or a growth investor who over the span of 20 years has been able to generate, let's say, 15% annual return, right? So this is a very successful investor, but it took him or her 20 years to build the net worth that he currently has. Now imagine that because a hacker was able to hack into his portfolio, his entire fortune is wiped out. Well, realistically, it's not going to happen because he would have security measures in place. So he would, for example, split his fortune into 5 different accounts, whatever. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that this hacker is wants revenge, right? And he wipes out 90% of his net worth. So this successful investor now is, let's say, 60 years old, and there's no way he's gonna be able to rebuild his fortune in the next few years, right? Because it took him 20 years to build his fortune, which was based on compound interest. So the idea here is that, I would propose to this successful investor that he create intellectual capital, in other words, ebooks, courses, etc., that he can sell online. And because his knowledge is so valuable, he would be able easily to gather a following on YouTube, TikTok, on LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. And he would attract a lot of people because obviously most people are very interested in learning how to invest successfully. And he can just sit down and be interviewed by ghostwriters and knowledge engineers in order to extract his most valuable knowledge. And then these knowledge engineers and ghostwriters would create ebooks and courses, etc. And it would sell like crazy. Think, for example, of how Warren Buffett, if he wanted to, he could easily create millions of dollars from his knowledge alone. So in the case of Warren Buffett, I don't, most people will not identify with him, but let's take the case of the 20-year investor who has been very successful, not at the Warren Buffett level, but let's say he's a multimillionaire. So in this thought experiment, you can see that the knowledge of a successful person is extremely valuable. Now, the problem is that the successful investor is likely to think, if you approach him with the idea of writing an ebook and creating courses and even a university on value investing, this successful investor is likely to think, well, I don't really need the money. I have enough money, and in fact, I enjoy investing. But according to this thought scenario, he's now in a position where he doesn't have money anymore. But he has something that may be even more valuable than money, which is knowledge. And I'm giving you this thought experiment because there are so many successful investors, entrepreneurs, managers, professionals, etc. It just doesn't occur to them to create intellectual capital based on their knowledge. So what happens is that they have very valuable knowledge in their heads, but they're unable to push that knowledge past a barrier that is only 6.5 millimeters, and this barrier is their skull, right? So the incredibly valuable knowledge that they have is trapped inside of their heads. But if they hire people to help them to extract that knowledge and make it cross the 6.5 millimeter barrier, which is the thickness of their skull, then their knowledge would be out there in the world. Their knowledge would not be trapped inside of their heads. And this knowledge that is outside in the world would take the form of books, seminars, webinars, boot camps, newsletters, video courses, audios, podcasts. Very much like what Ray Dalio has been doing. He wrote the book Principles, definitely one of the top 5 business books that I've read. And it probably took him just a few weeks to write that book, with the help of ghostwriters. So my message to successful people is that please take the time to consider sharing and selling your knowledge. And that's how you're going to generate a very interesting, a very significant income while having fun sharing your knowledge.